All right, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of Concede, a podcast about Hearthstone. My name is Kenny, and all the way from Thunder Bluff, Louisiana, we have Jace, aka Cinder, with us. Cinder, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. It's been a crazy week getting the podcast started, but right back at it, so let's get to it.
Yeah, it's a couple days later than what we were expecting initially. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but let's go ahead and get to know our other co-host here, all the way from Undercity, Georgia. We have Andres. Andres, how have you been?
Woo! I've been good. I've been good. It's been a good week for me. I've been very busy with real life and Overwatch, but it's been good so far. Excited to be back at the podcast.
I know, me too. So, yeah, we're doing it on Thursday this week. Tuesday was pretty hectic for me as I start my day at 5 a.m., so getting into baseball season, I'm the official scorekeeper for my son for his game, so getting everything done in time to go do the podcast, it was just a little too much on my plate, so luckily my co-hosts are very flexible. We're doing it on Thursday now. So I know, Andres, you said you were playing Overwatch. Did you have much chance to play this week?
Yeah, I played a ton this week. I was kind of sad because last week I was not able to play at all. So this week I kind of made up for it. I had some days free, so I think I overdid it too much. By the end, I was actually really warmed up, so it felt great because that is one of those games that the more you play, the better you get at, and like if you stop playing, you get bad really fast. But I don't know, it's a great game. It's really fun.
Great. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun playing this week, actually kind of getting back into everything. I know we mentioned on the last episode we played a lot of Overwatch. I haven't played any this week. I've been mostly laddering, trying to catch up. All right. And Cinder, what have you been doing on ladder? I know we've been kind of going up together, actually.
Yeah, we played a few games together. So last week I decided that my goal for this month was to try and get 500 wins with Paladin. So I've been sticking with my wacky mech secret paladin build, and I got from 12 to 5. I got on 5 on Tuesday, so I'm gonna bounce up and down on 5 probably through the end of the month because that's the way it goes.
How many golden heroes do you have? Will this be your first?
This will be my third. I got Hunter
Oh,
first,
nice.
and then Warrior, and Paladin will be my third.
Nice. I just got my druid, which is took me forever because I just couldn't get myself to play any more of the combat druid.
How many Goldens do you have, Andres?
I only have two. I have warlock and the druid, but all of my classes are about to get there. I keep like switching between them, so it's taking me a long time to get any golden heroes.
Yeah, I was the same. I actually worked on getting my paladin first because I played a lot of aggro. I call it Agridin, the aggro paladin
Yeah.
back in the day. So I played a lot of that, and when I went to secret paladin, I was like, all right, this is going to be my first golden. And then I hit my second golden was the hunter for last week, but I feel this month may be pretty close to getting my third one, which would be my warlock. I think I'm just maybe about 410 or so. So I'm gonna see how much I can play and kind of climb up the rank 5 ladder. I'm at rank 5 right now. I had a nice little streak of I think I started at rank 9 at the end of the last show, and I think I was 9-1, got all the way up to rank 5. I
Nice.
believe.
It's like a nice little streak.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I've been doing in Hearthstone though? That's been really fun. I've been playing with all the deck recipes. I just like click them, and sometimes I change one or two cards depending on like the meta. Like sometimes you need to add like a big game hunter in there or something like that. But most of the time, like the decks by itself are pretty good, and I've been having like pretty good success with a lot of different ones.
yeah, I'm hoping to play a lot of Warlock, but I'm really looking forward to getting that in time to where I can actually play probably Druid next month. I'm really looking forward to playing Egg Druid. I was talking to Cinder about this earlier, but
Yeah, I have my time with like Druid. It's a weird deck to play because you think it's like an aggro deck, but it plays more like a zoo, and then
like
you just
control.
go at the face in like one turn with Savage Roar, pretty much.
Yeah, with trades and it's yeah, exactly like Zoo. I'm in that mindset right now with playing Zoolock.
Yeah,
So,
it's a cool
but yeah,
deck.
a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun on ladder lately, just because I've been doing pretty decent actually.
Nice.
So if I'm getting closer, we'll see if I actually push for it. But I'm going to try and play a lot more at the end of the month here. Not looking forward to it. My goal every month is to get to rank 5, but yeah. Where are you at right now? What rank are you?
Right now, I'm at rank. I just got to rank 9. I've been just chilling until the new expansion comes out. Honestly, just taking the ladder easy, playing like interesting decks. I've been trying the deck recipes, and honestly, I'm just trying to do the quests and saving up a ton of gold so that when the expansion comes out, I can just snatch a bunch of those sweet packs.
Yeah, try to get as much free to play as you can before they just start draining my wallet over and over again.
Yeah, I haven't bought anything since the League of Explorers came out. I bought the League of Explorers, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah,
I've been saving a lot of dust and gold. I have a lot saved up so far, and basically this week I've been working on the daily quests and trying to get more completed.
Yeah.
I had someone on Twitter actually say, "Why did you play Mage for like 4 games and then go back to Warlock?"
Quests.
Well, I was completing my quest.
Yep, that's right. My goal is to get at least 50 packs from gold, and then 50 packs from the promotion that they do. And then that way, I think with that, it should be enough to just get all the cards that you really need from the expansion, and then you can get the rest over time.
I was the same way with the last one. I actually had about 7,200 gold, so I got that, and then I had the pre-purchase one. So I'll probably do the same. But yeah, cool. So that's pretty much been our week. I do want to mention here before we go into the news, if you have any questions during our show, tweet at us at Concede or ask in Twitch chat, and we may talk a little bit about that in the later part of the show. So let's go ahead and jump directly into the news. All right, so the first thing up here is after the show last week, we had America's Winter Championship. There was an interview, actually. So we have it on our show notes, that interview on, I think it was YouTube. No, it's actually on Battle.net.
It was hosted on Battle.net, but there's a link to a YouTube video in it.
There is, yeah. There we go. So check that out. And Muzak talks about the choices, what he's made, actually, why he took the certain lineup he did, what he was predicting other people to do. So it was very interesting to see his perspective on that. We can move on from that. You just go check it out. We'll leave it at that.
I think it's cool how they laid it out too. They show his lineup and then they show everyone else's lineup. I really like how they lined it up too. How they lined up the lineups, if that makes sense. Because you can see everyone bred Druid, almost everyone bred Mage and Warrior, and a couple Warlocks. And him and only Chess Dude brought Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
That's so daring too, to bring a Rogue in that sea of Warriors.
Yeah, well, Warrior does pick up a lot of bans in the current meta too, so I think that factors into it.
I think that's why he brought it, because he could ban. If not, I don't know if that Rogue would have done so well.
Yeah, he was expecting the Secret Paladin. Well, he was thinking of Paladin actually getting banned for him quite a bit. So
cool, but yeah, check out that interview if you guys want to know a little more about him. He's definitely a great player for how young he is, and you can learn a lot from the way he plays the game.
Great. Yeah, the other thing that came out here was that there was an expanded search function within the client itself. It was already okay. You could search for certain things, but they've expanded it to where you can be more particular over certain things and actually combine the searches too. So, for example, you could search by attack, health, mana. You could search for a range, like a attack : 3-5, and you can get any minions from 3 to 5 attack.
I really love that they did that, because the collections are getting really big, especially forward. Once new expansions come out, it's going to be hard to look for cards just by scrolling and sometimes just typing the names, or you'll forget the names. So even when building a deck, it's so useful to just be like, okay, I need somebody that has this much attack or is in this range of attack, and just like look for it. I hope they add even more key commands or ways to search for things.
I think they're going. I mean, they have to. I'm just imagining they had to just for the wild format because
Hmm.
again, like you're mentioning, just having to scroll through everything is going to take forever. So I'm glad it was a much needed addition to uh, everything that's being added here. Cinder, what do you think?
I mean, any CCG is eventually going to need this, and Hearthstone isn't any different. I mean, how big is the collection now? I think it's up to 800 or so cards, and it just takes
Yeah.
it takes too long. It's too clunky to have to page flip and go through and through and through. Even if you narrow it down to mana cost, it's still a lot of cards to go through. So adding in a really functional, usable, Google-like search function is just going to be super helpful, especially for the deck builders and the people who like to
Although,
tinker.
to be completely honest with you, as a longtime Magic player, Hearthstone's collection manager is really easy to use
Hmm.
compared to how you have to build a deck in, let's say, like a game like Magic. You got to search through so many cards and boxes of cards and then land cards, and like it takes like a good half of an hour to 45 minutes to just build a deck from scratch.
Yep, I've been there.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I'm really looking forward to using this for is for the tavern brawls every week. It'll be easier to kind of be more creative in making decks and look through my collection. So I'm really looking forward to that. The other thing that I kind of picked out immediately once I heard about this, I immediately went in to go find all those extra cards. I've been saving all of my golden cards and getting rid, like kind of dusting whatever I don't have that's golden. So say if I have two haunted creepers that are golden and I got a normal one, I would go and craft or dust the normal one. So I would go and look for that. But the only thing that was kind of annoying, now again, this may be me because I think they're adding this for the newer players and even for the ones that have been around, I guess, because they have a larger collection, it'll be easier to go through. But it would pull up all of the basic cards, the ones that you can't dust. So it's kind of annoying to go through the different pages. Now, this is being, yeah, I'm saying it's annoying because I
Usually,
had to
when
go through a couple.
if you go into crafting mode, though, the basic ones that you can't dust should go away. If you're going through the regular collection, then yeah, you'll see them all.
True, I didn't see if there was a way to distinguish between the golden and the normal in the crafting section. I could have tried that out. But yeah, so something to I'm really happy it's here and I'm looking forward to using it, especially with the Tavern Brawl.
For sure.
Hmm.
All right. Um, we have some new cards as well. I think we're going to save that for later when we do our card review.
We have a lot of new cards.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
some juicy new cards
Yeah.
too.
I was going to make a comment. We'll get to it, but yeah, I think the next part here we're going to have Cinder go over this week for the Europe.
Yeah.
Tournament expert over here,
Yeah,
resident
thanks.
tournament expert.
That's flattering. Yeah, so last weekend was the HCT Euro Winter Championships. That's the top 8. Now, before I hit on this, I want to talk about NA one more time from last week. I had said that Chess Dude's win percentage on ladder with Rogue was 67%. That is a mistake. His win percentage with Rogue on ladder is 60%. His win percentage with Druid on ladder is 67%. Like, this dude is crazy good on ladder with Druid. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. So, Europe
Well,
Championships.
thanks for the correction there.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, credit where credit is due, right?
Yeah,
anyone-
can't be messing up those statistics. You know,
Mm-mm.
people
Was
will
this
get mad.
something that a listener actually got back to you on and like
No,
let
that
you know?
was-
Oh, hey, by the way, or
It was really just me, me being particular.
perfectionist.
So Europe's championships last weekend had a very interesting and unusual lead up. The preliminaries that was the weekend before, or a couple of weeks before that, had quite a number of known factors in the EU competitive scene. They had names that had qualified for the prelims like Kalento, Gara, RDU, Zigzo, Nyria, Osaka, Tais. All of these guys that we know are great players, but each and every one of them, right down to the last pro on the list, was eliminated by these guys who were just ladder players. I don't want to say amateur. That kind of sounds bad, to their skill level. But these guys are very skilled, but they're not professionals. They're not in it for the money. They just thought, oh wow, this is great. I qualified. I'll go, and they made it. So I think the only name that was known on that list was Naaman, and I'm going to touch on his story in a little bit. But for the most part, these were all newcomers who were just there to have a good time, and it was a lot of fun to watch these tournaments or to watch these
That's really
matches.
cool, and it's cool that you bring that up. I've been thinking about this, and I've noticed like other players have talked about this. I think lately we're seeing a lot of more of the pro players that everyone knows, everyone sees at the tournaments getting eliminated, especially in this sort of open tournament style things.
Hmm.
And I think it's a product of how long we've had the meta that we have right now. The decks and what everyone is playing right now is so dissected and so well known. The strategies that are so abundant, and like you can go on Reddit and find so much information about this, that the margin between the top players and players that just play a lot is getting like way less and less. I think that those top players that you mentioned in that list really have an edge, especially when there's a great shift in the meta, because those guys are not only playing the game all day, but also have a great support system, right? They all know each other, they all have teams, they all share a deck list, they are all talking about what the best can be. They have people in the background who are doing research, like actual statistical or analytical research, and being like, okay, these are the best decks, these are the best lists, and those are the guys who get the most optimized lists first. But now that that is not the case, I feel like all these other guys have a much bigger chance of like getting into the tournaments or winning. I don't know. That's kind of like my take on it, and why we're seeing these guys fall off the ladder or the tournament ladder so fast.
Yeah, and I think too, if you look back at NA, the winner, Amnesiac, he had a team. He had practice partners from other teams. That played a
Hmm.
huge factor into his success rate, if from my perspective. And this time, Naaman being the top player, he may not have had the preparation of a team, but I guarantee you he was practicing with some other pros, and he
Yeah,
has a ton of experience in the last year's tournament circuit. So that did play a huge factor here.
for sure.
So on to results. Now that we're talking about Naaman again, Naaman comes away with first place. He beat Dr. Hippie in the finals. Now I will
Dr.
note,
Hippie, I like that name.
yeah, he's great. Almost all of these guys were characters. They're really entertaining to watch. But Naaman and
Nice.
Dr. Hippie, they were both the only two players to take Hunter, and both the only two players to take Freeze Mage. I found this to be really interesting. The deck picks overall for all the competitors were pretty different from the NA championships, but in particular, both of these guys who got all the way to the final match, only two hunters, only two freeze mages. I thought that was really cool. The runners up, third and fourth place, were Bunny Hopper, who was a master chemist, who's just randomly playing Hearthstone, which I thought was cool, and another one of these prodigies, a 16-year-old by the name of Pokrovak. Now, Pokrovak really stood out to me because they mentioned in his interview that he trained with Stansifka. And if you're paying attention to the European scene, Stansifka is an extremely strong player. He's a very strong
Yeah,
control
he
player.
is.
He's widely known for his control warrior play, but plays a lot of slow classes extremely well. And Pokrovak was the only player who brought priests, and it was a control priest that hadn't really been seen yet. Made a really heavy use of the really quick heals like the Light of the Naru and
Hmm.
Flash heal. And he took two copies of both of those, which was really unusual, but it definitely worked out for him. But once again, Pokrovak having somebody behind him coaching him, he advanced very far into the tournament, and that made a big difference.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Stansevka is a really strong EU player. He's known in the Magic circuit. He's won a lot of tournaments there, and he's also known for eating a lot of bananas live while he plays his matches.
Now
He
that
just,
you mention it, that's totally true. I never even thought about it.
but I don't know. It helps. It really helps him. I guess it's a good thing. Potassium is like good while you're like trying to think these problems or something. I think he does it because of that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know.
It's also
He's
a
a
beta
very
blocker
like
too.
calculated. Yeah, he's a very calculated player, and a lot of people respect his sportsmanship because he's
Hmm.
the type of guy that wants to win the right way. I think is in the past he's had games where there was like some doubt and stuff, and he's always been like, no, let's replay the game. I want to win this the right way. So a lot of people have respect for him because of that. That's cool that he's taking a disciple to teach him.
Yeah. Well, with
I feel
if we're talking about players to watch in the future, I think Pokrovac's going to be one of those. Because if Stancifka took notice of this kid at 16 years old, then there's definitely some talent there.
I feel like the people that tend to be to get further in these tournaments are getting help by people that are out. So some of, like you were talking about, some of the pro players that you normally see who are out early, they may be coaching or helping some of their teammates or even other players that they play a lot of games with, their friends. I feel like a lot of them actually help out and share their knowledge and want to see their friends do well. So, you know, it seems like that's pretty common. I don't. That's just something I've recognized.
Yeah. I mean, Hearthstone's a community, and, people of
The
common
person in
thought.
Hearthstone is really cool.
Yeah. No, go for it,
They're all
Andres.
pretty chill. Sorry, I keep interrupting
No,
you.
that's all right. Go for it.
I was gonna say the pro scene in Hearthstone is very friendly, very cool with each other. It seems like they're all like a tight group of friends, and they're all there just to have a good time, right? Even if there's a lot of money on the line, sometimes they're all friends at the end, which I think is cool. You want to be part of that community.
Yeah, absolutely. So other interesting players at the tournament. We mentioned briefly Dr. Hippie. Dr. Hippie got through mostly on ladder play, and he is very well known for his freeze mage play on the ladder. He in January and February he shot up very very quickly, like in the first day or two or three, but playing exclusively freeze mage. And that's an exceedingly difficult task because Freeze Mage takes so long to finish games, so his win percentage had to be very, very good. Um, and he was an interesting character too. He didn't his English didn't seem to be very good. He's from Ukraine, so when he got into the tournament, he didn't really socialize with the other players very much, and the other
Hmm.
players didn't socialize with him very much, and they didn't really know anything about him other than his ladder play, and that was
Sometimes
mentioned a
that could
lot.
be an advantage, though, that they don't know much about you, especially for tournaments.
Yeah, well, they kind of played up that mystery of him, that he's kind of an unknown
Yeah.
factor right in the tournament. Well, and right before the last match, right before the finals with Naaman, he had been speaking through a translator through all of the interviews. Nimsh asks him, do you have any tricks up your sleeve? You got any secrets going into the final match? He leans into the translator's microphone and says, "I have many secrets."
Oh, that's awesome.
It was the
He's
funniest
spying on the
thing.
other players, just pretending not to know English.
Right, yeah, and he,
Smart.
he understood perfectly. I thought that was really funny. And then
That's awesome.
Tars is a French player, and now he is a very frequent tournament player. And he's very talented. He did well. Um, but the thing I really like about Tars is how much he just loves the game. You know that he is there just to enjoy himself. He doesn't care if he wins or he loses. He's always smiling through all of his matches. He's always laughing. I mean, right up to the his final match, he's getting ready to get knocked down. He sees Lethal hit the board. He laughs, he shrugs, and he takes off his headphones. It's like, oh, that was fun. Thanks, man. I loved it when you punched me right in the face for 19 damage. I'll be glad to come
I
back
mean,
next
it's
time.
a cool experience to be in the preliminaries just by itself. So I think all of the players that are there already felt like they won something, right?
Hmm. And as noted, everyone. It was just interesting to see that almost everyone there was really just a hobbyist. They were there because they got enough points in ladder, they got through an open tournament, and they thought it would
Hmm.
be fun. Most of the guys didn't stream. Most of the guys hadn't been to a lot of tournaments. Some of them had been to some, but not many. And they weren't even sure if they were going to continue with Hearthstone, as a full time commitment. So I think
Yeah.
that like you were saying, I think that really speaks to the parity in the meta right now. So I think it's a good thing. I think Blizzard did a great job of making sure that the tournament scene is open and accessible to more than just the known factors. So it's great to
Yeah,
see these new
especially
players
this
get in.
year, they've done a great job with that. Just like extending, making it seasonal, and then doing all those tavern heroes, and so many ways that you can get in through. Is definitely how you say it, very accessible.
Hmm. So notable statistics that came out of the tournament uh, in 26 matches. Patron Warrior was banned 12 times. And that was the most commonly banned class. No one brought Control Warrior, which I thought was unusual. I figured Control Warrior would be a common pick, given how strong Freeze Mage has been in the meta, both tournament and ladder. But it didn't work out. Every single player who brought Warrior brought Patron Warrior, and it was banned a lot.
Hmm.
Zulak was banned 8 times. So both of those decks very well respected by the European meta. Uh, Interestingly, though, the only two other bans, besides Patron and Zulak, Druid was banned twice, both by Cereza. I think that was just a bad matchup for him, so that almost just discards that as a meta ban. And then
Hmm.
4 times, Mage was banned. Each of those was Dr. Hippie's Freeze Mage. Everyone respect banned Dr. Hippie's Freeze Mage, which I thought was really interesting. That
Yeah, it's cool.
totally speaks to his skill at that with that archetype. Once again, Druid was the most commonly played. It was in 6 out of 8 lineups and played in 45% of games played, 56% win rate, so back to where it should be compared to in NA. It didn't do very well, but did just fine in Europe. Zoo was the next most common deck. Again, 6 out of 8 lineups, 34% of games played, 26% win rate for Zoo Warlock. So didn't do very well. It seemed like there were a lot of bad matchups and a few mistakes because Zoo can be very difficult to sequence correctly, and if you don't do it correctly, you will very very quickly lose the game.
Well, looking at some of the lineups and stuff, seems like Zoo might have had a big trouble with those lineups, and there were so many other warlocks that it was probably running into a lot of mirrors as well.
There were a lot of mirrors, and you know what the card that was the deciding factor in a lot of those mirror matches? Sea Giant. Usually the player with the
Mm,
Sea Giant
Yeah.
ended up running away with the game.
where I could drop it first, yeah.
Hmm. And sometimes two, if one or two people were running
That
two
that mirror
copies.
matchup is a matter of tempo so much. Like the player who can get on the board first, like wins. Because after you get on the board, you can stop the other person from ever getting back on the board, and it snowballs from there.
Last statistic I'm going to throw at you are two hunters, the two finalists, Naaman and Dr. Hippie. Once you throw away the hunter mirror match, because they actually met twice during the course of the tournament, combined 60% win rate with hunter. So Naaman is a known specialist in hunter, so that's not surprising. But Dr. Hippie, caught a lot of people by surprise with that aggro hunter. So I'm just repping my hunter pride. Gotta get it out there. So the last thing
Born
I'll,
Hunter.
hey man,
Yeah, I
that
was
was
gonna
when I played
ask
in
you about.
Warcraft.
I was gonna ask you about Neymar because a lot of people have actually been talking about him and basically his redemption of where he's come from. Do you want to kind of talk a little bit about his past? That way we can kind of each make a comment about what we thought about it.
Yeah, I'll be happy to throw it out there. So, for those who may not have been closely following this last year, Naaman, with 2 or 3 other pro players, were banned from competitive Hearthstone for win trading. Now, this is a process where Legend players can either trade or pay for wins on ladder to quickly rise in the Legend ranks and try to hit as high as they can. Naaman's account that he used was banned permanently, and he was banned for 1 year. Now, in the interviews, he had talked about thinking about quitting Hearthstone, and I can't say that I blame him. I mean, think about if you're a Magic player or any other CCG. Imagine going to a tournament and finding out that you're banned for a year, but then they also take your card box and they throw it in the trash can and set it on fire. That's essentially what a permanent
And
account
step
ban does
on
in
it.
Hearthstone. Yeah, I mean, all your cards are gone. So he thought about quitting, understandably, and he said that his fiance had convinced him to stay in the game because she said, "Hey, you love this game. This is a setback, but it's not permanent. So start over and keep working at it. And that's exactly what he did. He started from scratch with a fresh account. He earned all of his cards again, probably paid for a lot of it, earned Legend a bunch of times, got enough points to come into the tournament, and ended up taking the whole thing and put his skill on display. Now, what I've been hearing around the community is the same kind of unease that I personally felt when I heard that he was in the championship. I didn't know if is this the caliber of player, the quality of character that we want in competitive Hearthstone, and that I had that doubt erased at the very end. He won. They gave him the trophy, etc. After the tournament, Frodan tweeted out that they couldn't get him for the final interview because he had run off the set to call his fiancée to tell her the news. And to me, that just won me over. I said, you know what? Now I know. Like, he really does love the game. He was definitely there for the love of it. So I got to give it to him. I got to extend my hand and say, welcome back, man, because I'm convinced. I'm a true believer. I'm looking forward to seeing more great Hunter play at BlizzCon. So, yeah, definitely. Welcome back. Congratulations.
Cool.
I think that says a lot about his character. Like, there's a lot about this that, well, my point of view is I'm actually siding with him. So I heard about it. I didn't really have any foot into whether I cared for or if he was win trading or whatever. I didn't really care or know much about it. Knowing a little bit more now, I kind of see this as a strategy game. Not only playing a strategy card game, you're finding out a strategy to give you the best chance of doing the best you can. And if win trading is part of that strategy, whether now I'm trying to be careful with how I say this. Not that I say win trading is okay, but I feel like in his mindset, he's gonna do what he can. It's to kind of.
I think I know what you're trying to say. Like you're just saying, like people will do whatever it takes to be the best, and sometimes people will come up with shortcuts to do this sort of thing because they're available and they can. And to be honest, Blizzard's stance back when that happened was kind of new, right? They didn't give much notice between when they said win trading was a problem and when they actually banned these people. And after that, I think everybody was like, okay, we should probably stop doing this because Blizzard is actually very serious about it. Win trading is actually a huge problem right now in the Asian scene. I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's a huge win trading like thing going on in their legend ranks. And basically, by the end of the season, there's like actually thousands of legend accounts that have gotten there because they pay this like group of like organized like Hearthstone players, and they get you to legend. As soon as you get matched with people in the group, they just give you a win, and they make sure that you queue up at the same time with them, so that it's very likely that you get matched, especially because they're around your level. So I don't know. It's definitely a problem because you don't want people to get ranked up artificially just by this, right? You want people to earn the ranks. I don't know if it's much of a problem in the NA scene anymore. I don't know. I think it's easy to get caught over here. It's a little harder to police over there, but I don't know. Hopefully, there's a thing that can stop soon.
I'd have to agree with you that it can actually be a detriment to the community as a whole and as a game. And even as we go, Blizzard's jumping into the esports scene with Hearthstone. It can really affect this, especially if it's part of what the tournament or the championship.
The legitimacy of like people making it to the tournaments, like
exactly.
You could sell BlizzCon points this way, right? If they can cater you to top 100 legend or even legend, you already get 1 BlizzCon point. So they're already allowed to play in some tournaments just by getting a few of those. And I don't know.
I think it says a lot about his character, though. That just the fact that he had everything taken away from him. Like if I thought about myself, like if I were to lose everything, that'd be very devastating. Like I like playing, and I would, maybe I would quit. What's the point of doing this? This is just such a big mountain to climb. But for him to actually come back and actually prove that, in my eyes, it's him saying, I've learned my lesson, and I am a good player. So
Yeah. Honestly, win trading is not like, stealing or something like that. It's more of like it's it's cheating on the sense of you're pretending to be better than you are, right? But at least Neyman has come out here and has proven that he's actually a really good player, and he doesn't really need the win trading. It was just maybe um, a little mistake that he made back in the day.
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think
Sometimes
no, sorry.
I was just gonna say sometimes it's like the idea of free wins in Hearthstone can be really tempting, especially because it takes so much work, especially when you have the upper ranks to rank up, but it just takes a couple losses to end up back where you were.
Yeah, I think we all know that pain. And
Yeah.
Kenny pretty much nailed it. It speaks to his character, and I think all of us would want to be judged by the content of our character and not by just one mistake that we made. Naaman, he accepted his punishment and he forged forward doing everything by the straight and narrow, and he should be recognized for that.
Cool. I
yeah,
think we can agree
bravo.
with that.
All right. So we have another segment to get to. Let's before we get there, though, I do want to take a second to thank some of our reviews here. So we did have a couple reviews with iTunes. I did miss one with K4 Poulet. Is that how you pronounce it?
Capulet.
Like
Capulet,
Capulet,
right?
like
Yes.
Romeo and Juliet.
All right. And this is actually a Canadian one. He's I actually liked his comment here. He said, "I'm not sure what I meant by that title. I should have answered the title there, but this podcast is great despite the incorrect turn one play the title describes. Never just coin and concede. Well, unless it's turn 15 and you have all you have is one coin, so you might as well just play it and concede. Note, if you get to that position in the game, you did something wrong. Wait, what am I talking about? Oh yeah, great podcast. This 1 star. I mean 5 stars. 5 stars.
Awesome review. And I mean, Capulet, there is a point to coin conceding, right? It just shows that you maybe didn't have time for your opponent. You were that good, and they had to move on to the next game.
Yeah. Or you're tipping your hat. Who
Or
knows?
maybe there you go. Maybe both.
And then our other one was a USA review with Crime Ally. So thank you very much for your feedback. We will definitely try and keep this podcast as positive and informative as possible. And glad to have you listening. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and go into our next subject or topic, which would be our Dexplanations.
Ooh, new segment.
All right. So actually, what I'm going to do is actually have Andres take over a little bit with the Dexplanations here.
Sure.
Just-
This week we were thinking about doing this new segment called Explanations, where we can go over some strategy regarding specific decks, or meta stuff that is happening. It's a little more strategy-oriented part of the podcast that we're trying out. Definitely let us know what you think of this. This week we were thinking about starting out with tournament lineups, since we've been going through so much of the winter championships and talking about all this players bringing all these different types of decks and stuff. I think it would be a good idea to discuss what goes into choosing your tournament lineup, what strategies you can do for that, or how you can thrive in a tournament setting. Well, try to get it behind the minds of some of these players and why they're choosing the decks that they're choosing. So cool, let's dive into it. I think that when you're thinking about tournaments, you should definitely separate them into what type of tournament it is. For the sake of, at least of this conversation, maybe we should keep it to open conquest tournaments, which reflect a lot of how these winter preliminaries and spring preliminaries are gonna go, how you can get in there. And basically, how the open tournaments work is you have to pick 3 decks, or sometimes 4 decks, depending on the tournament that you're playing, if you're playing with bans. But you pick your lineup of 3 decks, and you are kind of like at the mercy of what everyone else is building or what everyone else is bringing. So it's kind of a good idea to be well informed about what is good in the meta, what are the top decks, and probably the most basic strategy you can do for a tournament is bring a lineup of the 3 best ladder decks, the top three dogs, basically. Um, to give an example right now, it would be probably like Combo Druid, Secret Paladin, and then maybe like a Freeze Mage. That are decks that just dominate a lot of different decks in the metagame and don't have a lot of weaknesses. You kind of have to target those decks specifically if you want to win against them, but they have a very wide range of matchups and um, other lineups that they can go against. And just because they're the best decks, they just always have a chance of like pulling through. For example, decks like Druid, even if it's like in a tough lineup against, let's say, Tempo Mage or a Sulak, he can always, at the very last second, pull out that Savage Roar, that combo, and take the win. So usually is one of the safest strategies. It's a strategy that a lot of people adopt. It's a strategy that doesn't take a lot of planning. You just do your research in the meta game, and especially if you're playing a lot of the ladder, you kind of have a sense for who are the top dogs. Um, yeah, that would be like the most basic one. What do you guys think of this one?
Yeah, just looking at the various meta reports, getting an idea of what decks are the most consistent. That's probably the easiest thing and one of the most effective things you can do for picking a deck. That those best decks that usually float to the top of the meta are, like you said, those that have a lot of good matchups and not a lot of weak matchups. So you're safe in taking that in any lineup because you at least have a chance to steal a win, even if it's a slightly bad matchup. And that's probably why Druid sticks out a lot because of the Savage Nature combo. Because you can, if they're at 14 health, and at any time you can just play those two cards and win. Past turn 9.
Yeah, absolutely. Another good strategy you can bring over to tournaments, and before we can delve into more specific decks and stuff, is bring your comfort decks, right? Bring what you're comfortable with. The most important thing in a tournament setting is the familiarity that you have with your deck and how well you can pilot your deck against a wide variety of other different decks. And because you're bringing three different ones, you really need to be acquainted with all these. It's not enough to just bring the best decks if you really don't know very well how to play them. It'd be much more worthwhile to bring decks that you're very familiar with, decks that you know that no matter where you go up against, you know how to mulligan against them, you know what creatures you're looking for, you know what threats are going to play, and when to time your removal or that sort of thing. This will, I think this will get you much further in the tournament than just picking the best ones. Although if the best decks out there are your most comfortable picks, then you're already in a great spot. But yeah, I think a lot of top players do this too. A lot of top players are, like, for example, really good with Priest. Like you have like Zed a lot, for example, a very well-known Priest player. And even though Priest is not the strongest one, he still brings it just because he's so good at the deck that he will steal wins from his opponents that maybe are not that good against battling Priest because they don't have as much experience as he has, figuring out the strategy against the different decks.
So then, once you get to a point where you have, okay, I've selected, the 2 or 3 best ladder decks, and I've selected 2 or 3 decks that I'm very comfortable with, that I'm confident with. How do you narrow that down to 4 decks, or 5 decks if it's best of 7?
Well, best of 7, you're gonna have to be good at a lot of decks. I think that Blizzard's decision to make it a best of 7 is to really increase the skill cap of who gets up there and who wins the final match, right? As more people get good at the game, you have to increase kind of like the skill ceiling, if that makes sense. And being able to pilot more decks perfectly, it becomes a bigger problem. But sorry, I think I detracted from your question. You're trying to say how do you narrow down your lineup?
If I've picked my 6 decks that I think I can take, I have to come down to 4, and I have to consider strengths and weaknesses and possible bans. So how do I get it down to that lineup?
There's a few things that you can do. Obviously, being well informed about the metagame, being well informed about the opponents that are going to be in the tournament. Sometimes it's not as easy if it's an open tournament where you don't really know anyone. It's easier if you're getting into the upper bracket and you actually know some of the players that are getting out there. But there's a couple good ways. Right here in the show notes, you read a really good one. Setting up a matchup matrix where you can see which decks are good against others. A lot of websites actually offer a lot of these tools. You can go, I think, into Liquid Hearth. They have a matchup matrix, and you can see. You can look up Warrior, and then it'll show you which classes is good against, which classes is bad against, and then you can kind of do like a comparison. What do you think is gonna come into the tournament? And this is where being knowledgeable about the game and being knowledgeable about the current meta game is very valuable. The more research you do, the better. Because if you can narrow down which are going to be the most popular decks, it'll help you narrow down. So if I'm going to see a lot of Druid, is it worthwhile to bring Control Warrior? Or if I'm going to see a lot of Secret Paladin, maybe Patron Warrior would be a good choice. A lot of Freeze Mage, Control Warriors start becoming more appealing. So that way you can start narrowing down your lineup.
Sorry, I'm not really saying much in here because I don't have too many tournament experience. But I would say that also part of this too is just jumping into it. I mean, if you want to take it seriously and get into the tournament scene, go and do Tavern Hero local tournament, or open or go into and join an open tournament online on a weekend. Start to get to know the different people that you'll see from tournament to tournament, and kind of make friends, talk to each other, share your ideas, go through deck strategies. You'll make some friends, and you'll start learning the meta and who is in these tournaments, and start knowing what type of decks they like playing, what they're good at. So it's almost like a strategy within the strategy game. I would say that's how I would go about it if I had more time.
Yeah, I mentioned last episode. I coach chess to elementary school kids, and one of the challenges that I have is getting those kids to go to chess tournaments, because everyone has that anxiety that I've never been to a tournament before. I'm not good enough. Do I really belong here? A little bit of imposter syndrome. And it's getting them over that anxiety hump to get them into a tournament. But once they're there, they're having a great time, and I think that applies to anyone who's new to competitive gaming. Once you get into that first tournament, you'll do fine. I mean, you may not win. You might wash out, but that's okay. Getting the experience is the important thing. Getting it out of your system, getting the nerves, out of your system. That's really what's important for that first tournament, I think.
Yeah, that's correct. And then the crafting your lineup is really like a thing that gets refined over time. In the beginning, if you're just getting into tournaments, like thinking about what decks you're going to bring might be a little overwhelming. Like, oh, I have to think about all these things. As you play more and more, you start getting more familiar with what actually other people are bringing and their lineups. So you might actually get ideas too of what you can try yourself. Like, oh, this guy's lineup was actually really good and well-rounded. Feel free to add your opponents after the game, or if you're in a venue or something, go up to them and talk to them and ask them what decks they're playing. Most of the time, they're happy to talk to you about their lineup and their strategy, because honestly, Hearthstone scene is pretty cool like that. But eventually, you'll start getting a sense for building your lineup, and you can get into more advanced strategies, like for example, countering meta decks. So instead of bringing the most powerful meta decks at the moment to the tournament and try to win it, you can try to do your research and be like, okay, I think people are gonna bring Druid, Mage, and Hunter, and that's gonna be the main decks that I'm gonna see. So I'm gonna bring like Warrior, Rogue, and then maybe a Mage, and this will help me counter most of the things that I'm gonna see. A lot of people also do strategies where they counter a very specific deck. So, for example, Druid right now is super popular, and I know I keep talking about Druid, but it's probably like the most popular deck in the tournament right now. And it's a good example for this, because if you know that Druid is very, very popular and every single person in there is going to bring it, you can just build a lineup that specifically targets Druid, so that no druid can win a game against you. And if you're in a conquest format, your opponent might win the other two matches because your decks are not very decked out against it, but he will not win with that druid deck. Which might be a bad example because druid does tend to run away with a game no matter what sometimes.
Well, talking about trying to beat the meta, everyone's going to have this same basic idea of establish what's good, take those good decks, and take what I'm good with. That's great advice, and it's going to get you. It's usually going to get you pretty far. Once you're comfortable with that aspect, and then you can start thinking about countering the meta, and that's actually to take a real life example. Naaman did exactly that. He his lineup was it was an aggro hunter mid-range paladin, which is strange because it doesn't do well on ladder, but it actually has a really good matchup against Zulok, which there was a ton of at the championship. So aggro hunter, Zulok, patron warrior, and freeze mage. So he had off-meta picks almost across the lineup, but it did great for him because A, he knew those decks really well, and B, he had some really great matchups against the decks that he was expecting everyone else to show up with.
Absolutely. We have an example too with our world champion last year, Otskaka, and the runner-up Thais. Both of them had like an amazing like meta read, and they brought decks that completely counter most of the people. Everyone brought a very like aggro and mid-rangey lineup, and both of their lineups were just like destroyed those archetypes, and he won the world championship.
Yep. Now, once you get into the game, once you're matched up against your first opponent, your second opponent, then you have to start considering the ban. And so, Andres, what's your strategy for picking the ban of the class that you're gonna ban from the opponent?
Bans are really tricky, and I think bans are really like another layer of difficulty, another layer of strategy that has been added into the game. Because bans, you have to consider a lot of things when you're banning a deck. You have to consider which are the shortcomings of your lineup. What is your lineup weak against? And does your opponent have something that can take advantage of that weak spot? You can also consider if your lineup maybe doesn't have a weak spot, it's a very well-rounded lineup. What is your opponent's best deck? What is your opponent known for? What is he winning with? You can target that sort of thing. Or what is integral to your opponent's lineup? A lot of people bring like a very general, well-rounded deck, and then maybe like two decks are very like teched out against things. Maybe you can get off that really well-rounded deck, and then the other two offbeat decks that they brought are not as good against your lineup. So it's a lot of scouting too. You have to be aware what other people are playing in tournaments. If you're in a venue and that sort of thing, it sometimes is easier because after you finish your round, you can kind of like walk around, see what other people are playing, and if you're lucky enough, you can find out whether your opponent is playing. If you're in a tournament, in like online tournament, that's a little harder, unless you start making friends with everyone in a tournament, and then you can kind of like start poking around, trying to find out other people's lineups. It's a little harder, although like we said, the more and more you play, the more acquainted you get with the tournament scene, with the players that are in that sort of environment and what they like to bring.
Yeah.
And make sure you have enough spots in your friends list to be able to add people too.
Yeah.
Do you hit that cap anytime recently, Kenny?
I've had to, not recently, but I've had to kind of just go through it and just make sure this person hasn't logged in for 2 months. I should probably get rid of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, just make as much room for networking that you can, and see where you go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think.
Any last comments we want to add before we go to the next? We want to make sure we cover this, but also go over the cards as well. So.
Yeah, no, we're pushing time. Yeah, just getting into scouting, getting to know the community, very important because there are even like pick patterns. Players tend to sometimes stick with a deck if they've lost with it, or they tend to open with the same deck every time. Those are the kind of patterns you can use to choose which class you're going to go into the match with against them, to try and counter the deck that you expect them to play. It's another factor that goes into once you're in the game with your lineup. How do you come out with the most success with that lineup?
Yeah, absolutely. And like to get a good sense of what lineups to pick, since we're kind of general with this thing, because it's very hard to be like you should pick this, this, and this, since the meta game is always shifting. Different tournaments in different regions all have different decks. A good way to know is if it's like recurring tournaments, check back and see what other people have played before. Usually it's per month, sometimes a lot of these tournaments, so you can see what lineups people have brought. If you just want to get like some sort of idea, go check out the winner and the runner-ups, what decks they brought. Thankfully, most of the tournament scene in Hearthstone is very, very well documented, and you can find this information online very easily. Um, so it's a good way to get you started on some lineups.
Yeah, and even if you're not going to a tournament, like having insight into deck picks, deck lineup picks is really valuable for people who want to spectate tournaments. Because you
Yeah.
may be watching the tournament and the casters are talking about, well, this lineup is good against that one, but they don't say much about it, and now you're like, well, why? Well, with it armed with a little bit of information, now you can enjoy the tournaments a little bit more.
For sure. Or play it with your friends. I think it's really fun to play Conquest format with your friends where they pick three decks and you pick three decks and then you go at it. And then if you guys do it enough, like you get both players kind of start getting a sense for each other. And then it's really cool when the one player kind of like brings a counter deck to the other friend's deck and stuff. I do it a lot with my friends and I think it's really fun.
Great. I think that pretty much covers everything with the tournament. You guys want to move on to card reviews?
Yeah, let's do
do
it.
All right. So here's our card analysis. All right. So we'll try and keep this short here. Kind of, I'll switch off between you two and kind of take turns as we go through each one. I'll try and group up some too. I know we're a little short on time, but yeah, it looks like there's about, I don't know, 16 or so cards.
Yeah.
12,
There's a
16, somewhere around there.
Yeah, they
Quite a
really
few.
dumped on
Quite a
us since
few.
last week.
Yeah. So we'll kind of go in order when they've released them and we'll talk about them individually. So first one's a 4 mana, 4/2. It's Cthulhu's Chosen. It has Divine Shield, Battle Cry. Give your Cthulhu +2/+2 wherever it is. Andres.
Well, we talked
Anything you
about
wanna
the
mention?
Cthulhu cards a little bit on last episode. I don't think there's much to talk about them now. It's a Cthulhu deck. It'll buff your Cthulhu. You bring it out. You deal a ton of damage with it. I think until we see the Cthulhu deck, or until we have the cards, we won't see what kind of Cthulhu decks we can build. But as far as the cultists are concerned, they're all pretty similar to each other. You just buff stat-wise Cthulhu.
Yeah. Cinder, any quick comments?
Yeah, it's in the meta that's coming up where Piloted Strider goes away. Those classes that don't have a decent value for drop, this might be a slot to consider, possibly.
Yeah,
It's
and it has
definitely
Divine
a force
Shield,
lot
so-
for Cthulhu, though. I don't know if anyone would run this outside of a Cthulhu deck.
Well, the Divine Shield does make up a little bit of value. They got to hit it twice at least
True.
to get rid of it.
True. It's kind of like a mini bot with less stats in turn 4.
Yeah. All right, the next one's a 7 mana 6/6. It's a rare, and it's a Ancient Shield Bearer. Battle Cry. If your Cthulhu has at least 10 attack, gain 10 armor. Cinder, what's your first thought?
Oh, quick apology to our fans who are watching live. OBS has decided to not splash these cards on screen for some reason. They'll be in the VOD when I put it up on YouTube, so no worries. Ancient Shield Bearer, 7 mana, 6/6. Battle Cry, if your Cthulhu has at least 10 attack, gain 10 armor. Man, I'm a Control Warrior player. I love this card. This, it's a little weak for a 7, but Control doesn't want to play too much on, on curve value. They're looking for those armor stacking effects. This definitely
Yep.
gets the job done.
Yeah, this is like a Shield Maiden with even that gives you even more armor.
Hmm.
It just costs what, one more. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I definitely smell Control Warrior Cthulhu deck. That's what this card tells me. I wonder if we're gonna get a Cthulhu card for every class, or is just
We
a couple
should.
things, kind of like the dragons.
I think we are slated to have some for every class. Let me see if I can pull it up here. So far, just to pull them individually, we have 1 druid, 1 hunter, 1 mage, 2 paladin, 2 priest, 1 rogue, 1 shaman, 2 warlock, 2 warrior. So everyone has one, at least one so far. Or no, you're talking about Cthulhu. Hold
Yeah,
on.
specifically Cthulhu cards.
one. So we have a
I
druid
think I've seen a druid and a warrior, and then the other ones are neutral,
warrior.
unless I haven't seen a new release.
Yeah. Well, my quick thought on this is I'm curious to see how well this would do in a control warrior, only because it requires maybe one or two other Cthulhu buffing cards, and with a control warrior, they're already pretty full with removals and stuff. So it's going to be hard to kind of fit everything in there. We'll
Yeah,
see how that
obviously
works
you would
out.
have to be a modded control warrior. Honestly, I don't think you would even run shield maidens. You would just put this guy instead of them.
Well, Shield Maiden is GVG, so that's going away.
Oh, there you go. This is the replacement.
Hmm.
Well, still, you still have to have other cards because it has to have over 10 armor or 10 attack to get the armor.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
you need those cultists in there. Although by turn 7, it seems like you should be good because we have the other druid card is a 4-drop, right? And it asks that your Cthulhu is at 10 as well.
Yeah, by
Well, the
turn
thing is,
4,
if you
I don't
have-
see it, but turn 7,
If
yes.
you have two cards that are buffing your Cthulhu, and then you have these ancient shield bearers, that's 4 cards that are replaced that are trying to fit in for those 2 shield maidens. So, all right, I think we kind of beat that to death. Let's kind of group the next bit or the next 3 cards together. They're all 0 mana cost. They're spells, all epics. So it's Forbidden Flame. Spend all your mana, deal that much damage to a minion. The other one's Forbidden Shaping. Spend all your mana, summon a random minion that costs that much. And the last one is Forbidden Healing. Spend all your mana, spend all your mana, heal for double the mana you spent. So the first one I believe is a mage.
Yes.
There's a priest and a paladin card.
Yes.
So, Andres, what do you think first?
I
Any of these stick
love
out to
these
you?
cards. These cards are so flexible. I'm always a fan of like really flexible cards, and what these cards basically tell me is fill your mana curve whenever you want to and do an effect. Obviously, the effects do vary a little bit, and then how useful the effects are gonna be or how viable competitively they're gonna be, that that's remains to be seen. But from what I see, they're really cool effects. Like they're really fitting into the respective classes, and the ability for you to play them at any point for any amount of mana, it's really cool, and I think it gives a lot of strategic value to it.
All right, Cinder.
Forbidden Flame, I'm not sold on that one yet. Its mana to damage ratio is low. It's always working against the baseline of classic cards, which are 1 for 2, 2 for 3, 4 for 6. So 1 for 1, or 4 for 4, or whatever it is. I don't know if it's gonna make the cut into any mage deck that wants to run that kind of burn, especially because it only targets minions. I think that's probably gonna be a deal breaker for a lot of people. Forbidden Healing, I'm not sure on this one either, only because if you're playing, a control paladin that wants to heal at some point, during top off the rest of its mana and take some health back, there's probably going to be better ways to do that are combined with some other effect, like Lay on Hands. You're going to get 3 cards out of it plus healing. It's pretty rare to run just a healing spell, so I don't know about that. Now, Forbidden Shaping, I think, has more potential because Priest, being a very slow class and a very spell-dependent class, usually has turns where they don't do much. They might just heal or play 1 minion and have a lot of mana sitting around. So having this as a flexible drop that can be dropped on curve anytime they want, there's some potential there. I guess it's going to depend on the RNG and what tends to come out of the shaping based on the card pool.
I think you have a good point in the sense that the mana to effect ratio is not very good, aside from the priest one, which that one you actually get exactly what you paid for.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have control over it, but you do. But as far as the healing, the damage and then the healing, it's kind of like dubious a little bit. But I think the power of these cards doesn't come with the sheer like value you get from them, but the flexibility you get from them. For example, the Forbidden Flame, the ability to have that card being useful in a hunter matchup as well as a warrior matchup can be a big deal, right?
Right.
If you have fireball and you're playing against face hunter, suddenly your fireball in the beginning turns looks really terrible. But this card, you can fit that for 1 or 2 mana and get rid of their knife juggler or whatever it is that, or their huffer, whatever it is. And then when you're playing against control warrior and they play, I don't know, Alexstrasza on you, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't draw into my big game hunter. I do have 2 creatures on the board, and I can just spend 8 mana to get rid of it. Then this flexibility is what makes it good, I think, because it can adapt to so many different situations, which other cards can't. The other cards are kind of like stuck with it. So we'll see. We'll see if it works.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to see how it shakes out.
And I just to add my 2 cents, I think both of you hit it on the head there. I feel that I agree with Cinder on the Forbidden Flame. It is, I mean, again, it's towards a minion, but it is very. All 3 of these cards are very flexible. It fits your mana curve. It's what I get from these cards is what I feel with the Druid cards, where you get to choose between the different effects. So it's very flexible. The Forbidden Healing.
Sorry, I was just gonna do like a quick example. For example, if you're playing a Tempo Mage, you can play from Forbidden Flame with your Flame Walker in the same turn for 1 mana or 2 mana, right?
Or 0
Or you could save it till turn 10 and do 10 damage to the face.
No, not only minions only.
It's a minion.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Only minions only. Oh, that would have been so nice. But I guess that's why they've made it minions only.
Yep. And then as far as the Forbidden Healing, I feel like I'm wondering if they're going to try and get a Control Paladin and get more of a healing effect, like it was when the Paladins came out.
Yeah.
When the first game the game first released. So that'll be very interesting. Having a Reno Forbidden Healing, just maybe what do you call it? Fatigue kind of Paladin kind of thing. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what comes out. And the Forbidden Shaping.
I used to play one a long time ago.
Yeah, he was pretty good at it too.
Yeah, it was like the first viable Paladin deck that came out
right.
before GVG came out.
And the Forbidden Shaping, I love this card the most, mainly to Cinder's point, filling out the curve, especially when you have a hero power as the priests, where you really can't do anything with it. Like, you can't add a minion to the board, you can't bring a weapon up, you can't do anything. But if you have mana to spend, at least you could use this card to do something. Mm-hmm. Warrior is a prime example. You gain armor, but as a priest, you can't heal anything. You don't want to heal the other person's minions or anything else.
Yeah.
So I think
this one is really nice. Yeah, being able to choose to do like a minion on turn 2 or a minion on turn 5, it's a big deal.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one here. We have a legendary 6 mana, 5/5, which is called Herald Volage. I think.
Volage. Yeah, I think that's how you say it.
And it's a battle cry. Summon a 1/1 copy of each of your other minions.
This is so cool. This is so cool.
I want to hear your thoughts, Andres, because I know you were talking about this on Twitter a little bit. You were excited about it.
I love this kind of cards. Obviously, this card screams bring creatures that have awesome effects that you don't care about their stats. So creatures with, I guess, Death Rattle can work, or with a really good in game, like while they're in the board, they're good. I think Death Rattle Priest is kind of like what it's screaming to me.
Mm-hmm.
You've already got the Museum Curator.
Yeah, and then we have the other legendary that is coming out that resummons all of your Death Rattle minions.
Yes, so we're getting there. We're not there yet.
Okay, well, getting ahead of myself. But it sounds like you want minions with really good persisting active abilities, right? Either Death Rattles or things that buff your other cards while they're in the game, so that when you clone them, you can do awesome things with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a good card design too, because it avoids cards with charge, right? Making them 1/1 doesn't allow you to do this weird combos with that sort of thing.
That's true, yeah.
It'll be really good with control priest. I say death rattle priest. Especially if you get a Sylvanas that sticks. um, yeah. All right. So next one here is well, actually, Cinder, did you want to add anything?
Oh,
I didn't
yeah,
mean to
sure.
cut you off.
No problem. So it's stat-wise, it's a little weak, and it does require board presence to get any kind of value out of it. So that can be problematic if you're trying to play on tempo. However, anytime you have a card effect that duplicates something else, there's an opportunity for something crazy, and you should start digging for it. I was on Wellmet's Discord channel, the kind of throwing things at the wall to see if anything stuck, and I thought about this. You play if you have Bran, Prophet Velen, and you play Volage, you'll duplicate Velen twice. So you'll times two times two times two to get times 8 all spell and healing effects. So then you can like Mind Blast for 40 damage, and crazy stuff like that. So that's the kind of thing that I like in cards. Anytime you can just come up with crazy combinations, the Volage is the kind of card that can do that. So I will definitely be experimenting with this card.
You can do crazy stuff with this card, but you're right. It does require quite a bit of setup.
Oh,
so how competitive it can be, I don't know. I don't know about that. But the effect is definitely really cool, and I know that some people are probably going to get really creative with it.
I think it goes directly in line with what Blizzard's trying to go with something that's really cool and can be powerful, but can be reacted to. It's not like an initial throw it down and charge. It's people can react to it. But yeah, I'm actually, that brings up a good point. I'm really interested and curious to play a Shadow Priest. Like I've been hoping that Blizzard would go down this path, and this expansion seems like it's the coolest. I mean, I love the art and the feel of this expansion, so I'm really excited for that. So
yeah,
all right.
even like I don't know why Inspire. That's what I was trying to say. Inspire mechanics or Inspire minions can be good with this. Any active abilities like that. All right, but let's move on.
Yeah, we're trying to be quick here.
Yeah.
We have a 4-mana 2/3, which is Infested Tauren, common card, Taunt, Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 slime, and it has been confirmed it's not the Taunt slime. So, Cinder, let's go with you first.
Team 5 needs to keep their pink squiddy tentacles off of my Tauren. That's my comment.
All right, Andres.
Sludge Belcher 2.0?
Yeah.
The stats are, I mean, if you combine the stats of both creatures, it's a Yeti. But you're splitting them up so that it's going to trade badly with other 4-drops and even other 3-drops. So I'm really not sold.
This is, I think, what the new Sludge Belcher is going to look like, because I think they went a little overboard with Sludge Belcher. They realized that, and we still need a good tool to stop aggro, and I think this is a good starting point, right? You get a 4-mana taunt with 2/3, and then you get a slime after that. So against small creatures, this guy can be effective. You're right that it won't compete against better creatures. So in the 4th drop, it's actually pretty weak. I see this as an anti-aggro card, not a super good one like Sludge Belcher was, but a decent one. For arena, it can be good enough. If you're building a Death Rattle deck, you can maybe get some use out of this guy.
Yeah, that's true. All right. I don't really have any comment for this, so we'll skip me. As far as the next one, it's a spell. It's a Warlock card. It's 10 mana, and it's Doom. It's an epic. It says destroy all minions. Draw a card for each. Andres, let's go with you first, because I know that Cinder has a comment about this.
I love the name. I'm gonna start with that. Doom. That's an awesome name for a card. As far as the utility of it, I'm not exactly sure. Warlock already has pretty good card draw, and they already have a card that does this for 2 mana less. So do they really needed one more of us? Not exactly sure. Is Twisting Nether not good enough with the hero power? You could draw a card and do Twisting Nether in the turn 10. I guess this one can draw you a lot more cards. Maybe for a Reno deck, you can have a Twisting Nether and then this guy, and then you can draw into your Reno. I can see that being useful in there. But yeah, I'm not super excited about it. Maybe like a one-off in a control Warlock deck.
I'm kind of agreeing with you. I'm kind of I mean, it's a Warlock card, and your hero power actually does that. But
Yeah.
I think there was another Warlock. Well, we can go over that other card later. But
Yeah, that's the one I'm excited about.
but Cinder, what do you think about this? I know that you have a slightly different opinion.
You know, at everyone that I've read and heard from isn't crazy about it. I think this has a lot of potential. If you're playing a heavy control, like even a fatigue type strategy, which Warlock isn't really great at because of the hero power, but if you're at turn 10 and you need a board wipe, you know, if you've got very little and they've got a lot, and you need to pause the game. This will do it, just like Twisting Nether will, but it has a potential to refill your hand, partially or even fully. And card advantage, hand advantage, is a big deal when you're playing a control archetype. So I think this actually does have a lot of potential. And I could be wrong. I was excited for Bolfaram Shield. I can admit when I'm wrong, but I do think that it will at least get experimented with, because I do think it has some value.
It's okay to be excited. I just think that this card comes a little late for the effect that you want to have out of it. By turn 10, you've already been able to tap it quite a few times, you know, to keep up with card advantage. Unless you're designing a deck that is like really putting stuff out there constantly to the point where you're gonna need to refill your hand this much and wipe the board in turn 10. It just seems like overkill, in my opinion. Like, Warlock already has both of these tools in plenty. Like, they have so many ways to wipe the board and draw cards that I don't know if, like I said, it's just overkill. And the only way I could see it is maybe a one-off in a Reno Warlock deck. But like you said, maybe I can be proven wrong too. I've had many players that have done awesome things where I haven't seen many players that have done awesome things with weird cards that you wouldn't expect.
I'd have to agree. I mean, I feel that the card, I mean, you'd have to have a lot of cards that put other cards back into your deck or kind of refill it or make use of that kind of type of refilling. You know, I'd be concerned at the end of the game if you're running out of cards. Yeah, you run out of cards and start dealing damage to yourself. But we'll see. So I think we're all good on that one. The next one is a 1 mana, 1/1. I'm going to hand this to Cinder to see if he can pronounce this.
It's N'Zoth. N'Zoth's Tentacle.
N'Zoth?
Yeah, so
N'Zoth's Tentacle.
yeah, 1 mana, 1/1, Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to all minions. It's a Whirlwind effect, and if you have a deck that likes Whirlwind effects for whatever reason, this is not a bad card.
Yeah, it's actually quite nice. 1 mana Whirlwind effect that just needs to, die. But even if they waste a silence on this, I would be totally fine with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it's cool, especially for Warrior, kind of like keep Patron alive. I think this is a cool tool for Patron.
That was what I was going to mention. I know there's a guy that's actually really interested in playing a Patron Mage deck, and this would be something he'd been looking forward to add.
There you go.
So. That's true, because you can ping this easily.
Yep. All right, next one is a 5 mana 4/6. It's a legendary. Halaziel the Ascended. Whenever your spells deal damage, restore that much health to your hero. Let's go with Anders first. What do you think?
This is a very interesting card, especially because Shaman literally has like an arsenal of firepower at their disposal. Like, they have lightning up and down. They can do so much like damage from hand, just from spells, that this guy might be really interesting for that sort of deck. especially a control deck that maybe is trying to combo you out with spells, that sort of thing, where you can forgo any type of healing and just heal as you deal damage. Like,
Yeah.
imagine playing this guy and Lightning Storm. Like,
Yeah.
you could wipe board and heal for like 10 or more.
Yeah, he's
That's true.
it's definitely anytime you see a healing effect with a decent body, you kind of start leaning towards control. Extending the game clock as much as possible. And
Hmm.
Shaman already has some tools for a control build, so I could definitely see it going in that direction.
Yeah.
Be very interesting. I think something that'd be really interesting would be a Mali shaman with this.
Maligo Shaman, yeah, this guy can keep you alive. I guess you only get one copy out of them. So, but honestly, it's kind of like Healbot, right? You only run one copy out of it, and then you can do a big wipe on turn 8, turn 8 or 9.
Yeah. All right. So next one would be another N'Zoth card. It's a 1-mana 1/1. N'Zoth's First Mate. Looks like it's a warrior card. It's a battle cry. Equip a 1/3 Rusty Hook. Cinder.
Rusty Hook.
It's a pirate card.
Yes, it is a
Pirate
pirate.
tribe.
So at first glance, I thought this is bad. It's a 1/1 for 1, which is a weak 1 drop, and it gives you a weapon which you're quickly going to replace with the fiery wind axe, right? Well, so then I started breaking down the stat and the tempo of the card. So turn 1, you play it, you get the 1/3. If you're playing against an aggro deck, they're going to play a 2/1. They're going to try and accelerate their tempo as much as possible. So either whether or not you played first or second, the hook gives you an immediate answer to the 2/1. And then when they follow on turn 2 with a 3/2, you can use the hook and the first mate to clear that, and then follow with your own 2-drop. So this looks like an anti-aggro card specifically.
The stats seem so weak, but because you get a weapon from it, it's actually kind of interesting.
I feel like there's going to be a
It's
lot
not
more.
an incredibly awesome card, that is for sure. An arena might be really useful. The 1/3 hook is not terribly impressive, especially because you said you're gonna replace it with the axe next turn. It's definitely a way to stop your opponent in his tracks in the first turns, but I don't know. I don't know if Warriors definitely struggling with that, or like this is gonna be the best tool for that. I like the other card better for that sort of thing.
Well, there's a couple things I want to point out. So there's the pirate part of it. The other part is the weapons. So I feel like warriors are going to probably work with weapons and weapon altering effects, or even minions that work off the weapon itself too. So I mean that's something that you would want to kind of keep an eye on, just in the back of your mind. And the other thing too is keep in mind you may get this at the later in the game too. So how effective would that be to have it at the end of the game?
Yeah,
So,
later
Yeah.
game would be pretty bad. Yeah, it's
So-
it's an okay card. Not too
Right.
terribly excited about this guy.
next one is the 4-mana. Let's see, it's an epic. Yeah, epic. And it's a faceless shambler. Oh, it's a 4-mana 1/1 taunt. Battle cry. Copy of friendly minions attack and health. Right.
I love it.
Andres.
I like it that they're adding a little more faceless guys because I'm a big fan of the faceless manipulator. My first favorite deck ever was the old handlock that used faceless manipulator to copy Leroy and deal like 32 damage in one turn. And that deck was so fun to me, and I would love the flavor of the faceless manipulator. And this guy is kind of like that too. It's a cool card. It's an interesting card because you can match whatever stats your opponent has on the board, right? If they play a 4-drop that is a 4/5, you can have a 4/5 with taunt.
Oh no, this is a copy of friendly minions attack and health.
Oh, it's only friendly.
Yeah.
Oh, I see that. I think it was any minion, so definitely not like the faceless one. So it changes a little my perspective on it because you have to have a board presence. But the cool thing about this, though, is that the later that you wade into the game, the more value this gains, right? Because if you're able to play a big minion and copy that big minion for less of its cost, and on top of that give it taunt, that can be quite interesting. Let's say a taunted giant or something like that that you can copy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same boat. The kind of cards that require you to have board to extract any kind of value out of the card have a tendency to sit dead in your hand when you're behind, and I don't like cards that do nothing when you're behind. I like cards that help me get
Yeah,
back from being behind.
yeah,
All right. All right, so let's move on to the next one, which is a legendary. It's Nazoth himself. It's a 10 mana 5/7. Nazoth the Corruptor. Battle cry: summon your death rattle minions that died this game.
Mm,
All right, Cinder, what's your first thought?
oh man, first let's all just admire that artwork. How cool is
yeah,
that, man?
yeah. It's really really cool.
Yeah, we're
um,
looking at the golden card.
Yeah, with the animation, the lightning going on behind it, it's great. The
Hmm.
first deck that I ever really played seriously as a competitive deck was Death Rattle Hunter, where you use Feign Death to extract a bunch of value out of Death Rattle minions. It never
Hmm.
really quite succeeded because it doesn't have all of the multitude of activators that Zoo does, and Zoo takes advantage of Death Rattle. But this guy really kind of makes me start leaning back towards archetypes like that are really heavy on death rattles and try to extract as much value as they can. Um,
Yeah,
as a 10 drop, not strong, but if you've dropped at least one good death rattle during the game, immediate value. I definitely see a mid range death rattle strategy coming out of this guy.
for sure. The two things that come to mind to me is like Death Rattle Priest or the Death Rattle Rogue. I think
Hmm.
both of those classes are kind of like set up to be able to do like a deck in that archetype. And this guy is kind of like sealing the deal, right? If you're doing a Death Rattle deck, your board presence is already like really, really strong. And if your opponent manages to wipe your board like 13 times, which is probably what he's going to have to do, and then still be on top by turn 10, you can just drop this guy and be like, well, what are you going to do now?
I feel like he's going to be in a lot of different decks. This is a good card. I'm excited to see all the different type of opportunities this will bring.
Yeah.
So
You can
I
also
mean,
get picky. Yeah, for example, if you're doing Control Warrior, right, you can choose your threats very specifically to just be like really strong Death Rattle threats, like
mhm. Sylvanas, you could
Sylvanas or
have,
Cairn
yeah,
or something like that, and then you drop this
yeah.
guy in turn 10, and you know for sure that what you're gonna get.
Even like a Zulok kind of thing too. You know, all kinds of different opportunities.
Yeah, the 10 mana cost that does makes it pretty much forbidden to aggro decks though. You're not gonna see an aggro deck running this guy. He's either mid range or like a late control.
All right, next one here is a 2 mana 2/2. It's a rare. It's Undercity Huckster. It's a rogue card. Death Rattle. Add a minion class card to your hand from your opponent's class. Andres, what do you think about this?
This is interesting. It's kind of like the what's the name of this guy? The new guy that came out that gives you this
Urgle?
cover.
Oh, the
Oh,
Dark Peddler.
Yeah, the Dark
yes.
Peddler. That's what it reminds me, but it's kind of like the neutral Dark Peddler.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
I like it. This card, I mean, we've already seen that any card that on turn 2 with 2/2 stats that draws you a card is pretty decent. We got a Loot Hoarder, and that works well. People play the Priest card. I don't know why I'm blanking out on all the names today.
Museum
That's how
Curator.
much I've. Yeah, Museum Curator. So we've seen that those cards actually tend to work pretty well, and you can get an insane card from this guy. So I like it.
Yeah, agreed. Two for two that gives you a card at some point. That's usually going to work out in your favor. And
Yeah,
Rogue was
and
And
then
already Rogue was already suffering for 2 drops, so I think this is good.
yeah,
two
this
drops,
guy's
and
nice.
it's also good for. It's a low-costed minion, so it works off their combos, and you know you can. It seems like you could get a lot from it. So
Hmm.
very
And
useful.
actually, I like that they specify it from your opponent's class, because sometimes when it can be any class, it can be a little too random. But when they actually specify at least from your opponent's class, there's a chance that those spells can anti-synergize with them, right? Like um, I don't know, I can't think of an example right now, but you know what, you guys understand what I'm saying.
Like polymorph or yeah, I'm horrible with names too.
Well, I was thinking like, for example, with Warrior, right? When they're playing such a big threads, and then you have the chance of getting like execute, for example.
Yeah, true.
Right.
All right, and Cinder, anything else? Well, I guess that's it.
Yeah,
We
we're good.
commented about that.
Mhm.
The next one's a 2 mana spell. It's a Warlock card, Renounced
Yeah.
Darkness. It's
Yes.
an
Oh
epic.
man. Oh yeah. Go
Replace
ahead and
your
read the
hero power
text.
with Warlock cards that will with another classes. The card costs one less. Cinder, sounds like you were going to talk about it.
Oh yeah, I got way too excited there. This is such a
I have a
cool
question
card.
before
Oh
we go into it.
yeah.
Can you choose the
No,
class?
it is random.
Complete random.
Completely random. Yes. So
Okay.
you will end up with one of 8 other class hero powering cards, and it's such a cool effect. Like, this is the kind of thing that digital card games allow that you could never do with a cardboard card game. You can
Yeah.
just
I've
completely randomize everything. I
Yeah, you're right. I've never seen a card like this ever in any card game.
No, and even though I yes, it's random. Yes, you can't pick what you're going to get. But there is something to say about your opponent not being able to prepare for your turns any longer. Like, once you play this card, that's it. They're guessing. So are you, but at least you get to see what's in your hand. And I think it replaces everything, what's in your hand and what's in your deck. So, I mean, it's going to be just sacrificing something to the RN Jesus and, hoping for the best.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. The cool thing about this card is that, at least with Warlock, it gives you some chance to set up a good board advantage and a good card advantage. And then, because it's very low cost, you can play it, and then it's kind of like Thorson in your entire deck, right? Like if you
Yes.
had one swipe of Thorson in your entire deck. So even if you get like subpar cards, you're gonna have a big tempo advantage. You just gain so much mana just from playing this card. So I don't know. It's so hard to judge and so hard to tell. I feel like some games you're gonna get an amazing hand and everything's gonna cost one less, and you might be able to do some awesome stuff. And then other times you're just gonna get some weird ass cards that might balance out because they cost one less. I don't know. I don't even know how to judge this card because I've never even like played with anything close to it.
Yeah, I think if
I
you
just think it's really interesting.
Oh, it's definitely. And I think if you were to build a deck that just had a really good backbone of on-curve minions, then, you can at least rely on that if nothing else. If the card doesn't give you anything good.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing too. You can choose when you want to do this. You can do this on turn 2 or you can do this on turn 10. So you can build a really solid deck and then kind of like flip the tables in the middle of the game
Yeah.
and be like, "All right, now what's up?"
Yeah, it's very
I don't know.
interesting. I don't know the possibilities. I can't wrap my head around it as much as you guys were talking about. So we'll see.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
my
definitely
comment.
see.
All right, and we had another one actually come out since we last updated the notation here for our show notes. It's a 3 mana 2/2, which is Brood of Nazoth. Cute little guy. It's a Death Rattle. Give your minions +1/+1. Andres.
I like it for a death rattle deck. Um, Obviously, your opponent can choose to kill it before you can buff any minions. So it's kind of like the stats are also par for the 3 cost. But if you can manage to build a board which is not hard with a death rattle deck, this guy can be real pesky. Another way to buff him, right?
Yeah, it's one of those cards that is going to find some difficulty to set up, but once someone figures out how to set it up, it can probably accelerate value on the board pretty quickly. And again, the artwork, it's just too much. Uh, this is what my wife would call this spoopy, where it's both spooky and cute at the same time.
Spooky.
If you're listening on the audio, you got to go look up this card. It's the most adorable and
That's
disgusting
pretty
thing at the same
adorable.
time.
Definitely, I think they're trying to do a Death Rattle Nasoth deck, right? I feel
Yes.
like that's gonna be the theme of that god, just Death Rattle.
Yeah,
We'll
imagine what
keep
happens if
bringing
you
him back.
Yeah, like you drop Nazoth and then he resurrects one or two of the brood. Now you have a full
Hmm.
board with the +1/+1
Hmm.
death rattle, and they can't really easily deal with that without buffing the rest of the board.
Yep.
Yeah. Death Rattle Priests. I'm surprised there's a lot more Death Rattles. Maybe I'm wondering if they got smarter with how they're costed and
I think they've been significantly like toned down. So far all the Death Rattles that I've seen are not anywhere near Paladin Shredder or Sludge Belcher status.
I'm pretty excited for it. I just can't wait for all these cards to come out. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
We'll probably have another
Can't wait to try
bunch of
'em.
Hearthstone next week as well. Well, we went pretty long for this episode.
Yeah, that was
Go ahead and
definitely a
do
good
some of
talk. Almost 2 hours. Wow.
We're making up for all the last time we had for the couple.
Yeah,
weeks.
there you go. Extra episode for all the good listeners.
All right, so I do want to go through some of the. Trying to think of the word, like the logistics of the podcast here. So, if you would like to send us an email, we would really appreciate it, and that way we can actually talk about it. We'll fit it in. If there's not enough, we'll make that the extra segment, and we'll go off of that. You can write us by sending an email to coinconcede@gmail.com. Also, we do have another Patreon sponsor, which would be Chris B. So thank you very much for sponsoring us. We appreciate it. We'll keep it rolling. We do have a bunch of announcements coming out for it soon. We're trying to get it all wrapped up together in a nice little package, so that way we can just lay it out there for everyone to go take a look. So thank you so much for our two supporters so far. You can go check us out at patreon.com/coinconcede. And Andres, you want to go ahead and go over other things?
Sure. You want me to go over through the thanks?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. We want to say thanks to Stephanie L for letting us use his cover. Check him out on his channel. It's all linked in the show notes. Also, thanks to Sasu for creating the logo. You can find him at Sasu on Twitter. Same on the show notes. And you can catch our blog post at www.coinconcede.com along with our show notes. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede and share all of our Facebook and stuff at facebook.com/coinconcede. If you guys want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And soon you can find me on Twitch once I get all my streaming stuff together at Twitch TV/iPlayGames with a Z, because somebody else took my nickname on Twitch, unfortunately. Right, you guys want to share your stuff?
Yeah,
Sure. Cinder, how about you go?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at Cinder Ascendant. If you're not sure about the spelling, check the show notes; it'll be in there. And check out my Twitch channel, Twitch TV/Cinder Ascendant. That's where I host my show, Heavy Metal Hearthstone. I haven't been on it in a little while just because I've been working hard on Coin Concede, but I will be back, I promise.
Great. And you can follow me at KCCO_gamer on Twitter, and on Twitch at same thing, KCCO_gamer. You could always add me at KCCO gamer number 1752 on the Battle.net. Also, Cora, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the show. I'm such a bad person. She's just been so busy. We're like, hey, take time off, do your thing. So if you like to keep up with her, follow her at songbird_HS, and her Twitch is at Sage Cora. I try to link as much as possible on Twitter for her, so that way we can keep her in the loop. Hopefully we'll get her on soon. Hopefully the next we'll talk about it, but hopefully it'll be soon. So other than that, hope you enjoyed the show. Just keep calm and chive on. And until then, coin concede.
Going concede.
Coin concede.